when I look back, my mom is pretty much out of the door already, and I could just remember her saying, "I love you." And wow, I didn't,
Wow.
I didn't see, I didn't see the love at that point. I saw betrayal. If you do something wrong, it's not a big deal. But obviously, it was a big deal,
Mm.
and that was the moment that I had to start understanding, like every decision that I make is gonna have a consequence.
Right. Welcome to the Rain from Within show. I'm Shane, your host. Before we start, I want to say this. Today's guest is a special one. At the time of recording this, it's the longest episode we've done so far, and I genuinely recommend you stick around for the entire conversation. It's emotional, honest, and worth the time. Mario is one of the best dudes I've met ever. I want to take you back to October 2023 because where I was mentally when I met Mario matters. I had just broken up with my girlfriend and it had been on and off. We ended up getting back together, but that's a different story. But first time we broke up, I was destroyed and it was necessary, but it put me in a really dark place. That day after the breakup, I was sitting in the sauna trying to get out of my own head. I've always been interested in boxing and martial arts, but I never knew where to start. And honestly, I didn't know anybody who trained. So that day, post breakup, I overheard a couple guys talking about training and an upcoming fight. Normally, I keep to myself when I'm in the sauna. I'm locked in, listening to my music. But for some reason, I spoke up and I was like, hey, where do you guys train? Mario was there. He stood up, he introduced himself, shook my hand in the sauna there. He's like, yo, bro, let me get your number. I'll help you get in. No hesitation. Ready to help me right away. Within days, he brought me into Ironworks Gym at Holman, Wisconsin here, introduced me to the owner, Nick Johnson, a beast, and he helped me get my first mitts and wraps. He literally bought me my first boxing gloves. I didn't even know how to throw a punch before I met Mario. And he was my mentor that really got me in there, went out of his way, made sure I felt welcomed. That's the kind of guy that is on the show today. My mom still runs into him at Hy-Vee where he works, and she's always telling me, yo, you got to get Mario on the show. And she was right, because Mario's story runs deep. He grew up without a father figure. His dad was in prison. He came up in Florida, surrounded by drugs in the wrong environments. He spent time in juvenile detention. He escaped to Alaska and eventually found his way to Wisconsin where our paths crossed. Throughout all of it, his faith journey has been real and earned. In this convo, we talk about identity, discipline, responsibility, pain, and God. What it looks like to choose a different life when survival used to be the only option. This episode is long for a reason. Like, subscribe, share with someone who needs to hear it, and comment your biggest takeaway. Above all else, enjoy the show. Wow. Mario, dude, first off, I got to start out. You're my mom's favorite worker at Hy-Vee, dude. I feel like y'all always run into each other, dude.
We always do, man. It's awesome.
She said y'all ran into each other like a week ago and you gave her a hug and y'all always have some great combos and the energy. She's like, you got to have Mario on your show. And I said, hey, I've been talking to him about it. It's going to happen. And then last weekend, you're like, dude, I got to come on the show. All right, bet.
Yes.
6 days later, we're making this happen now. So thank you so much for coming on, my man. You have a very powerful story that I think a lot of people resonate with. So I want to start at the beginning where you grew up. You grew up in Puerto Rico. And
Yes.
suddenly you were dropped into a massive Miami school. I want to know, what was that like? Take me back there, and what did that shock do to you internally as a kid?
So I come from very humble beginnings, small family, always been very close to each other in a sense, very, very small, but, just as you can imagine, man, I'm coming from an island where, kindergarten through fourth grade is a thing. That's how small the schools are. And I'm used to just, a class of 10 students maybe, and that's a big class right there. So going from that and traveling to Miami and then dropping into, Kendall, Florida, where it's just massive. It's, like I said, about 2,000 students. Like, it was mind blowing to me. I was like, I'm never gonna know all the students in this school.
Mm.
And the complete opposite actually happened. You know, everybody wanted to know who's the kid from Puerto Rico, who's the new guy, and I didn't expect that. But you know, when you bring good energy, you know, a lot of people gravitate towards that. Whether it's good or bad, a lot of people do gravitate towards that. And it was a little overwhelming at first. You know, I didn't know if I was gonna fit in. I didn't know if I was like, what way was I gonna go in life? And it was crazy, man. I remember meeting a couple kids and then meeting cooler kids, and then you start thinking like, oh, maybe I'm one of the cool kids.
Mm.
So you start hanging around people and not really seeing what cool actually is. Most
Totally.
people go by, yeah, most people go by an image. You see the kid that's popular, you want to hang around them because all of a sudden you're popular. But little did I know what that was gonna bring.
Yes. So Miami definitely has a strong pull of crowds and influence. When did you first notice that you were starting to drift towards the wrong environment?
When I started meeting very good people and I started realizing that slowly they didn't want to hang around me anymore. I didn't know why. I thought they were my friends, and maybe at that point I was too naive and too overwhelmed with other things that I was like, whatever, the cooler kids want to hang around me, so whatever.
Mm.
But I didn't understand value at that point and what true friendship really was. And sometimes those people that are going towards a positive way and and just having that positive mentality, I didn't realize how strong they were because obviously they were keeping themselves away from the crowd for a reason. And little by little, I started noticing, oh man, like my good friend that I like talking to about music doesn't want to hang around me no more. That's weird.
Mm.
My good friend that's really good at sports doesn't want to hang around me no more. That's strange. Whatever, you're a kid. You don't put it too much mind. You just move on.
Totally. How old were you when you were placed in the rehabilitation juvenile center?
I want to say 12, 13, around that age.
Okay. So you mentioned
Yes.
you were in that for about 7 months. That's
Yes.
no joke. What
Why?
was the biggest mental shift that happened while you were there?
I'll never forget. I'll start from the moment that my mom took me to the court.
Hmm.
So I was getting in little trouble here and there, and I didn't think much of it. As a kid, you think innocently about everything you do, even if it's a mistake and you did wrong. You're like, it's a little mistake. It's not a big deal. But I didn't realize how much I was impacting my mother and how much I was really stressing her out. And I remember one day, she comes to me and she's like, "Hey, we got to go to court to pay some of the bills from some of the, silly stuff that you've done." And I'm like, "Okay." And then we went to Burger King, which I found really strange because we weren't the wealthiest. We didn't have the most money. So for my mom to invite me to Burger King and tell me, pick whatever you want off the menu, I was like, something's off.
Hmm.
And as I ate that burger, I was just thinking to myself, like, oh man, I really wonder, like, why did my mom bring me here before going to court? Like, this just is not lining up. And it took like 2 hours. And, I'll never forget, I'm in the courtroom and one of the COs or one of the officers walks up to me and he has handcuffs and he goes to throw them on me. And I look at him and I laugh and I take a step back and I'm like, no, 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 I'm just here to pay a bill with my mom. When I look back, my mom is pretty much out of the door already, and I could just remember her saying, "I love you." And wow, I didn't,
Wow.
I didn't see, I didn't see the love at that point. I saw betrayal. I saw, a lie. I was very angry. I was like, "Mom, I have a girlfriend. I got friends. Like, why didn't you tell me that this is happening? Like, I need to." But I didn't really have that chance to tell her because that's it. The court was ordered. So, my mom ended up basically going through court to court order me to go to this program because she didn't want me to end up down the wrong path.
Hmm.
And I remember it was a big shock. They put chains on your legs, they put handcuffs on your arms, and you're attached to 8 other people. I see this stuff in movies. Like what? I don't belong here. I know I don't belong here. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I might have made a mistake or two, but it's not a big deal. Like, why am I here?
Hmm.
And I remember going to the facility, and as soon as I walked in, even though I was young, I've always had like a lot of facial hair. and I had like a little bit of a afro kind of thing going on, and I remember hearing kids in the background, and it was like a zoo. You know, they were like, "Hold on to the hair, because they're gonna cut it off," and like it was
Oh,
so much chaos that I was like, "There is no way this is serious. Like this has to be a joke."
yeah.
And just imagine walking into a door and basically somebody saying, "Hey, hand me your youth because you become an adult today." And that's exactly how it felt. I walked in, sat down in a chair. It wasn't a nice barber. It was one of the inmates there, and he just cut my hair, went bald, and welcome to the program. And that was really like wild for me. I'm like, what's going on? This is not my environment. And
Yeah.
the I would say the biggest shift was that, like, realizing that decisions I made were starting to show, and the consequences from it were starting to play a part, and I didn't know what I got myself into, honestly.
Oh, yeah. They talk about in Proverbs sometimes we have to eat the bitter fruit of living our own way. That is an insane origin story, brother. Holy crap. I can't imagine feeling essentially deserted by your mom walking out, knowing that it was at the time probably the best thing that could have happened, though, with what
Yes.
was required. And you said you stopped
Yes.
feeling like a kid after that experience. So,
So,
yeah.
but
No, you
I
got it.
rem- so so I remember walking into my room. They say, "Hey, this is the room that you're going to be in." And I remember the moment I walked into the room, this kid grabs me by like my chest and just slams me against the wall. And he's like, "Hey, I was small like you, but you're gonna get big with me." And mind you, this kid is 14 years old and has like bodybuilder arms. I'll never forget his name, Akeem Allen. He
Hmm.
was his whole life he was in facilities like this.
Hmm.
A young kid that was just lost in life. And I was frightened. I was like, what is going on? Like there's no way this is happening.
Right.
And you know, that sense of like that there's no more, "Hey mom, I need help with this," or, "Hey mom, can you come pick me up?" I took that all for granted, and I
Hmm.
didn't realize that now I'm in a zoo, and that's what it felt like. At nighttime we had two separate wings, wing A and wing B. And at nighttime everybody would yell and scream, and people would do like crazy noises, to the point where like you would realize that there was no more fun to life. It was very serious,
Hmm.
very scary, and this is what I got myself into. So now I have to sleep in the bed that I made. And as far as your question goes, feeling like I lost my youth, I remember the day that I got out of there and not being able to remember the. Sorry.
No, you're doing great.
I remember the moment I walked out of there, feeling all good about getting out, but realizing that I just felt like I lost my youth. I didn't feel like I was a kid anymore. I felt
Hmm.
like I was a grown man now, because of what I just went through, that nobody's gonna understand because they're not in the same situation. And like I said in the beginning, when you're a kid, you do things, and if you break something, it's an honest mistake. If you do something wrong, it's not a big deal. But obviously, it was a big deal,
Hmm.
and that was the moment that I had to start understanding, like, every decision that I make is gonna have a consequence to it.
When you first went in, did you know how long you'd be in there for?
Not at all. Not at
How did
all.
they
They say
decide?
they say it was a minimum of 6 months, and depending how you behave, it would be longer time. The reason I did 7 months was, as time progressed, you get comfortable in there, and I started kind of acting like my exit was guaranteed. And I'll never
Hmm.
forget one of the CEOs saying, "Oh, you want to see how guaranteed your exit is? Watch this." He walked to the office, and it went by levels. So you started off with a certain color shirt, and you worked your way up to the green shirt. And I was at a green shirt, so I was like, "Oh, I'm getting out of here. It doesn't matter what you guys say. Like, I'm guaranteed out of here." And I remember him coming back from the office with a red shirt, which is the first stage of the program. And he handed me a red shirt, and he's like, "Here you go." So he put me right back in the red shirt, and I was like, "What did I just do? Am I gonna have to start this all over?" It was a luckily, thank God, it was a lesson that he was teaching me that nothing is guaranteed. So don't take advantage and don't take it for granted. But I had to do an extra 30 days essentially.
Wow, that's humbling.
Yes.
Holy crap. That's a really good lesson, though.
Oh, yes, it was, and one of the beautiful things in there was it helped me find working out because, we would all work out because there was nothing else to do. And it also, every Thursday we had church. And no matter where everybody was from, no matter what gang they were in or what background they had, when it was church, we all just got together and became a unit together, and so it was definitely a time in my life that I will never ever forget, and I love that. It's experience that I want to remember to continue to stay humble and to continue to know that my next decision is my most important decision.
Very well said. When you got out, even after learning the discipline, and I want to ask you, what was the first thing you said to your mom when you got out? Did you have any contact with her?
Yes, so part of the program for you to get out was that relationship building with your parents. And my mom was my only parent because my dad was in prison. So I almost kind of feel like I was playing the system. I was like, let me make sure I say the right things. Let me make sure I don't piss her off too much because now I know it's that easy for her to go to court and put me back in this program. So in a sense, I was deceiving people. I was playing like if I learned everything, which I did learn a lot, but I wasn't full. I was more excited to get out and get back to seeing my friends and get back to the moment that it's almost like time stops the moment you go in until you get out. So you literally want to like catch right back up where you left off at, which is what I did. I immediately went to my friends. I immediately got like a bottle of alcohol. I immediately wanted to hang around people and show them like, hey, I'm back. What are you guys going to do for me? Like celebrate me now that I'm out?
Why do you think change didn't stick the first time?
Although 7 months is a long time when you're inside of there, it was fast in a sense as well. Like, okay, I'm in here. That's great. You know what? If anything, mom, you helped me work out, which I wanted to do. We would do 500 push-ups every day, 1,000 push-ups on Thursdays, and like it almost like helped me go into a quick little constructive mode for myself, but not the way I should have went about it. I just really didn't. I didn't. Even though I understood the severity of it, I almost thought that I can just be smarter this time about what I did and how I did it.
Yeah. Okay, I hear you. Yeah, sometimes in life we get the same patterns keep popping up, and we have to learn the lesson the harder and harder way. And I've seen that many times in my life as well. So you were so young. This was happening between ages essentially 12 to
14.
What? 14. Yes.
Yeah.
So there was a point you shared with me before this interview. You said there's a point when you saw no escape and you accepted death or jail as your future. So I want to know, what does that mindset feel like when you're living inside of it, and what age was this happening? Where were you at?
So, man, how does that to answer your question, how does that mindset happen? You want to do good, or people around you see the good in you and want you to do good, but you don't fully see it. You hear all the right things, but you know the reality of your circumstances and your situation. I got out the program and I was still living in the same neighborhood. I was still around the same school. I still had the same friends. So once I saw how good it was for me to easily jump back into, doing drugs, jump back into staying out late night, and when you have good energy in a sense, like people gravitate towards you.
Yeah.
So when you're not really making the effort to do something, but people are like, hey, I'll pick you up tonight. Or, hey, I know you don't got the money for this, but don't worry, I got you covered. It makes it very easy. And sometimes the enemy, not sometimes, the enemy wants those he can't have. He doesn't care about those he already has. So,
yeah,
I didn't see the value in like where I could go. I more just saw how good I was at where I was at. And, my dad's in prison. I keep hearing by all my family members, oh man, you're so like your dad. You're so like your dad.
Mm.
Well, I guess you guys are right because I'm going to a program at an early age. I'm getting in trouble at an early age and I'm doing drugs. Like, I just didn't see, school was another thing. I go to school and I'm in the seventh grade. I'm hanging around doing the same thing everybody else is doing. All of my classmates pass. I go to the class thinking I passed, and the teacher's like, hey, you failed. You're still in the same grade. That was embarrassing. It was like, what do you mean? I was doing the same thing that guy was doing. Well, that guy was also studying. That guy was also doing things when people weren't looking. But I didn't know that because I thought I was the cool guy. So let me, do everything that makes people laugh. Let me entertain stuff. Let me draw my teacher instead of drawing a math problem down on a paper. And I just didn't see myself escaping. I was 14 hanging around 20 and 30-year-olds.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have also not hung around me, but at the same time, I was resourceful. I've always been an operational type of guy. I like finding solutions.
Right.
So, applying that the wrong way in life could get you in the wrong places. And I just didn't see all these great things that people would see that for me. I couldn't see it. I was like, my mom's broke. My brother, my sister, and myself, we're struggling. I failed school. Like, let's be real. I'm just going to be a nobody. Like, this is what it is,
So even though you didn't believe in your abilities, you still had a very positive aura around you. And some people took advantage of that and led you to becoming a troublemaker. Am I hearing that right?
For sure.
Okay.
And I think I give a lot of credit to my grandmother. May she rest in peace. And my other grandmother, too. They were always very into church. And every time I hung around them or went over, which was pretty much every weekend, that life was that was part of my life as well. So Monday through Friday, I'm doing everything I want. Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to church. So a big hypocritical type of lifestyle, contradictions all around.
Right.
And, it was almost like Saturday and Sunday gave me enough positivity to push through Monday through Friday.
Yeah. That I totally feel that walking like a walking contradiction where you're preaching something, you're going to church, but you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Being around the wrong people doesn't help. So you went to Gainesville. You moved. Tell me about that shift and how that impacted you. And how old were you here?
So at this age, I'm 18 years old.
Okay.
Or actually, I'm 17 years old. I get myself into some trouble. I'm out selling drugs. I'm out hanging around the wrong crowd. And at this point, I'm really going bad. And my mom is starting to realize it because I'm starting to be more honest with her about it. I'm letting her know, hey, Mom, if people come knock on the door, just call me. And just to even think that, like, I was okay with that, in a sense, is embarrassing. Like, why would I put my mom in that position? And, I continue just telling myself, like, as long as I'm being real, because that was the thing, you want to be a real man, a real guy, whatever. I didn't care what nobody thought. I got to a point where, like, opinions didn't matter to me no more. You're not in my shoes. You're not waking up when I wake up, and you're not going to sleep when I go to sleep. So at the end of the day, like, don't tell me how to live my life. And I remember at 17, I got in some really big trouble. And at that point, I was understanding, like, this is just the life that I'm living. But God's timing is perfect. God. My uncle and my cousins were looking for a place for years. Mind you, they lived in Miami 20, 30 years. And boom, they find a place. It's in the woods in Gainesville. It has a lot of work to do. And the day after I get in trouble, coincidence, right? Or perfect timing. My uncle calls me and he's like, hey, what do you think about moving up with me and helping me clear out the land? I really wanted to say no because I was progressing in that lifestyle I was living. But I've always been a man of taking a chance. And I took that chance, and I said, you know what? I will. Why not? My uncle had, my uncle hunts. He likes guns.
Hmm.
Maybe this contributes more to the lifestyle I'm living. So I go to Gainesville, Florida, and wow, I love it. I love waking up and not having to cut my hair because of people's opinions and think about what people think of me. I love having a responsibility, a sense of duty. I wake up, I take care of the chickens, the pigs, the horses, the dogs, cats. I mean, you name it, everything. And on top of that, I go to sleep with a gun. So in a sense, it was a security thing, but it was also a sense of responsibility that it really helped me. It pulled me away from the environment I was in, and I loved it. I got to do everything opposite of what I was doing, and I really embraced that type of lifestyle.
Wow, that's a complete 180 of lifestyle. How long were you in
Yes.
Gainesville for?
So I was in Gainesville for about 4 years, and then on top of all of this, I was constantly applying at jobs in Miami. But when I went to Gainesville, I was fortunate to work with my uncle on a flooring company. So
Hmm.
not only was I, doing things on the outside, I was also learning a trade. I learned how to install floors and stuff. So I felt more like I was maturing a little bit, like I was doing something that was contributing to something. And those 4 years were awesome. It was a complete different lifestyle, man. Like you said, a complete 180.
Gainesville for 4 years. Then you went back to Miami and you fell into that same environment. Did you get reconnected with old relationships that didn't serve you? What happened when you got back to Miami?
So, leaving Gainesville was a shock to me. I was I was already comfortable. I was already used to that lifestyle, and in a sense, I was like, hey, I'm going to live forever in Gainesville. Like, I'm gonna live in the woods. This is my
Mm.
lifestyle. We all have an inner caveman in us, and I remember my uncle just one day saying, hey, Monday you're going back to Miami. I didn't know why. Did I do something wrong? Did I like what was the reason why?
Yeah.
And I remember him just telling me like it's just time. And I didn't question it after that. I just said, you know what? It's just time. So when I went to Miami, I wanted to show my independency. I wanted to show that I could do things differently. So I didn't want to live with my mother anymore because the last time it was with my mom. So I go to my brother and I'm like, hey, I'm a change guy. Can you give me a chance? Can I live with you for a little bit until I find an apartment or something? I need a job, but I just don't want to live with mom no more. And he accepted me in his house. In the process of that, he was already on a list for an apartment. So when he got approved for the apartment, because he had a fiance at that time, he just said, "How about this? I'll get the apartment. You could sign the lease as well, but I'm probably gonna be with my future wife. Why don't you pretty much take over the apartment? You
Hmm.
make all the payments. It'll be yours. And if you want to help with your bills, you could always find a roommate or something." So that's exactly what I did. I went to the neighborhood that I grew up in, which was a terrible environment. So I get my own apartment. I feel all great about this. I'm applying at jobs. I remember I had the biggest beard I probably ever had at that point because I was in the woods and I never trimmed it or anything. And I go to Burger King because nobody would hire me. I don't have experience. I didn't know how to do floors. And I remember the lady looking at me and she like laughs and she's like, even if we thought about giving you a job, like the beard would have to go. I went home, I shaved the beard off completely, and I walked right back over there and I was like, I need a job. How serious are you about it? Because look how serious I am about it. And even though I did that, still had to wait another 30 days. So now I'm like, how do I make money? I already promised my brother that I'm going to do something. So I did what most people in that situation, in that environment do. I started selling drugs. With that process, I had a salesman in me, so I mean, I could sell rocks to a wall. I just started doing very well in that, and then Burger King hires me. So I kind of let off of that life, and I'm like, let me do it the right way. That was just a moment. Let me take this job seriously. And although it was Burger King, man, I treated it like it was a five-star restaurant. I worked hard. I did very good, and I quickly excelled from like a cook and cashier to basically one of the managers. On top of that, I didn't have anything else to do in life, so like I would live at Burger King. Like if I wasn't home, I was at work, and I did that for very long, and I met a lot of great people there that took care of me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was also my source of not only income but food. I would eat a ton of Burger King because I didn't have money to buy food. I only had enough money to support my habit, which was smoking and drinking and to pay the rent. And that was the routine that I got myself into. So it was very easy. Again, when you put yourself in a certain environment, it's very easy to fall right back into that same type of lifestyle.
That's so true. Who is your friend that moved to Alaska? Because you mentioned that was a turning point for you.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So thank God. It's my brother's best friend. His name is Jonathan. And Jonathan knows me since I was in diapers because Jonathan as well lived in that neighborhood that I'm telling you about.
Mm.
So, one day Jonathan wasn't there no more, but you don't pay no mind. You let people just go about their life. And then 10 years later, he pops up and I'm like, Jonathan, I remember you this skinny. Now you've gained some weight and stuff. Like, where have you been? And he tells me he's in Alaska. And I'm like, Alaska? Like, how did you get to Alaska? And he starts explaining to me how he has family up there. And, throughout this whole time, because I lived in Gainesville, like, I've always had this love for, like, the wildlife, the outside, like,
Mm.
stuff like that. So here I am watching all these Alaska shows, and I come across a buddy of mine that's living in Alaska. So, like anybody, or I would think, I say, how do I get up there? And in his defense, he was smart about it. He's like, he's like anywhere else, you got to move and do your stuff. But Jonathan, like I said, he's my brother's best friend. So with me, it was a little bit different. Like he almost took a big brother role, and he checked on me more often. And I told him, I said, hey, Jonathan, like I'm serious, man. Like if you would tell me to go to Alaska, like I would go right now. I would open the door to my apartment. I would let everybody have everything. And if I had a girl, I was like, I don't have a girlfriend. But if I had a girlfriend, I would tell her that it's over. Like I would quit everything in life to be in Alaska. Because again, like I didn't see too much of a future. I only saw like if I get to a certain spot, I'll just do that for the rest of my life.
Mm.
And within I don't know, like 2 months or something, one day he sends me a text message, and it's a plane ticket, and the text on the bottom says you have 30 days, and I'm mind blown. I'm working at Burger King. Um, like I said, God has perfect timing.
Yeah.
You know what? Like a week before I go to Alaska, one of my friends, just to show you just the environment I was in, one of my best friends that we call Busta, he gets poisoned by his girlfriend and thrown in a lake. This doesn't even hit the news. This is just another day in Miami. So the lifestyle I was living was around this type of environment of people, and I was only going deeper and deeper and deeper. My loyalty as a person was getting shifted towards loyalty in the wrong crowds.
Mm.
So now there's things going on. There's a lot of people talking around the neighborhood, and what happens? One of my best friends, they think he's the one that had to like he's a part of this stuff. So now they want to kill him. They want to find him. And what do I do as a loyal friend? Hey, don't you worry. I'm here with you the whole way. So for him to send me that ticket and tell me I have 30 days, it was a life or death situation for me because I truly believe if I would have stayed, I just would have died because this is who I was hanging around, and I didn't care to go against that. Like that was my loyalty as a person.
Wow.
And yeah, and I remember making that decision. Like I remember asking myself a lot, like, man, is this what I really want for myself? Here I got somebody offer me an opportunity that I've wanted, but here I got another friend of mine that is in need of a friend. And how do you figure out what you're doing there? Both of my friends believe in God, but one of my friends says, there's a reason I'm here and puts it in a positive view. Another friend of mine says, God is going to be with me when they come to kill me. So I'm not sure where I'm going. I'm like, God, like, please help me. Like, what decision do I make here? And I just said, screw it. I end up opening my door and telling the neighborhood, come inside and get whatever you want. Leave my PlayStation and my TV in my bed because I need that till the last day. But everything else, everybody can have. And in a Section 8 area, in a place of poverty, it's a no-brainer how many people are going to show up to your door to get everything. So within a day, everything was clear. For the next 30 days, here I am in a two-bedroom apartment with a TV, a bed, and like a little bit of clothes and my
Wow.
PlayStation. And I rough through the path. I rough it out those next 29 days. And when that day comes, people were asking me like, "Hey Mario, like you getting out of here? You moving?" People start getting real curious, like what's going on. And I'm saying nothing because I don't want nobody to know the next move of mine. And I'm like, "Oh, nothing, nothing." Boom! From one day to another, I disappear. And going to Alaska was, I mean, it's literally the point where everything changed. I went from 90 degrees to literally 30 below my first day. And it was hilarious too because I was in Miami at the airport and I had my big coat on. I got all my clothes,
Yep.
everything that I can hold on. I get to my next stop, I take off my jacket. I'm really hot. By the time I got to Alaska, I was in a regular T-shirt and pants.
Oh yeah.
So it was really funny how it happened, but it was an experience that I can't say thank you to Jonathan enough for. That he changed my life, and to this day, I always tell him like, I owe you my life, man. Like you have done so much for me that all it took was for you to buy me a ticket, and that projected me in a whole different direction.
And you were ready. That's all you needed, and you got the ticket before the incident happened with the friend getting poisoned and threw in the.
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yes.
It's really cool that you were able to just say, "Hey, y'all have the rest of my stuff except the essentials like the PlayStation," and you just went, dude.
Yeah.
That is literally polarity. You're going into the snow.
Back to another 180, right?
Yep. So you got there. Tell me about like what did you do when you got to Alaska, and then tell me about your work ethic.
So first thing I do when I get to Alaska, mind you, I have $350 in my name because I sold the PlayStation and the bed. I have at a pawn shop basically. So I have $350.
Yep.
I have two grocery bags and a big bag of clothes. That's all I'm taking with me. And when I get there, I'll never forget like the picture. It's a tiny airport, kind of like the Lacrosse airport. The sliding doors open because somebody gets close to it, and all the steam just comes in from all the cold air and the hot air. And I'm immediately freezing. I jump in the car, and it's nighttime, but it's only 4 o'clock in the afternoon because I moved in the winter time up there. So day one, I go. We hang out, we eat a little bit, we talk this and that. And my cousin, which I consider a brother, cousin, family, Jonathan, tells me, "Hey, tomorrow, wake me up around 8 a.m. We'll get in the car and I'll drive you around town and I will help you find a job." I'm like, "Awesome, yeah, that sounds great." So next day comes, I wake up at like 6 in the morning, I put all my gear on and I just start walking. I get on Google and I'm like, well, this place here looks like it has a couple stores. I'm going over there. So around 8 o'clock, 8:30, Jonathan calls me and he's like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm looking for a job." And he's like, "What do you mean, Mario? Like, this is not a joke. You could die out here. You could literally freeze out here. It's below 30. Like, what are you doing?" And I tell him, and I remember saying, "Jonathan, I told you that all I needed was an opportunity. It is not your responsibility to find me a job. This is my responsibility, and by all means, I'm going to go get a job."
Wow.
And he's like, "Where are you? I'm going to go find you." And I'm like, "I don't know where I'm at." Like, I'm just walking, but I heard that there's like a little Mexican restaurant around here. And he's like, "I know where you're at. I'll see you there in a bit." So I just start walking. To put it into perspective how cold it was, you got all this gear on, so you're really like, you're sweating in the inside. And I have a face mask on, and I take my mask off, and the moment I take it off, it just freezes. So I can't put it back on, because it's frozen solid. And I get to this Mexican restaurant, I'm like, I got icicles on my beard, I got icicles on my eyes. I get in there, I go in the bathroom and warm up a little bit, and I talk to the owner. And I'm like, hey, my name is Mario. I saw you guys, are a really nice restaurant out here. I want to see if, there's a job for me here. We sit down for like 3 minutes, and he's like, I'll be honest with you. Thank you for coming in, but I don't have nothing for you. And I'm like, man, okay. So as I'm walking out the door, I'm like, man, Mario, this is what you always do. You just take the no as in like that's gonna be okay. And I walk right back to the table and I'm like, hey, sir, and he like looks at me surprised, like, what is he doing back here? And I say, I'm not walking out of here until you give me a job, man. If you want me to get a toothbrush and polish rocks outside, that's what I'll do. If you need me to get a toothpick and pick the little grains of dirt from the ground, that's what I'll do. I was like, I need a job. What do you need me to do? And he looks at me, he's like, do you know how to paint? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a professional. Mind you, I only painted one time in my life, so I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a professional. He's like, $50 an hour sounds good. And I'm like, absolutely, man. Like, sign me up. He's like, all right, you start tomorrow, 8 a.m. And I'm like, so I'm ecstatic. Mind you, I was a manager at Burger King making $9.10. So $15 to me is like, wow, like I'm in gold right now. So around that time, Jonathan shows up and he's like, hey, how did it go? We're going to go to Walmart. We're going to go here. We're going to go here. And I look at him and I'm like, I got a job. And he's like, what? And, we're all excited. And I remember I had my dress shoes on and I like almost slipped in the ice because it was so slippery outside. And, we get in the car and he's just like, wow, Mario, like you really like you're really serious about this. And I'm like, Jonathan, you gave me an opportunity and I'm not going to take it for granted because coming from the lifestyle that I live, I'm not used to people doing anything for you unless there's some type of return. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for you to genuinely help me out, like that was huge to me. It was a sign of loyalty, and I showed up every day there. So as time progressed, 8 o'clock in the morning to 12 o'clock, little by little, 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock. 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. And I see my hours cutting and I'm like, I can't live like this. Like I need another job. So I started looking around and I go to Walmart. And Walmart, they offer me a cart pushing job. I'm like, sign me up, no problem. As long as I can have some cold gear on, I'll push all the carts you need. So 8 o'clock to about 10, 11 o'clock, I work at, it was called Giles. And I work at that restaurant. I walk about a mile or whatever it was, and it takes me about an hour. And as soon as I get there, I'm clocking in for Walmart and I'm working an 8-hour shift. Now I'm in a corporation. I feel like, oh man, I'm doing these big things in life. And it was amazing, man. I couldn't stop crying every day when I would call my mom and just say like, Mom, I don't only got one job. I got 2 jobs. And she was just so proud. And I remember that natural high that I was getting from seeing my mom happy that I was doing something positive now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the fact that you were willing to walk an hour to work from the other job in the cold, you don't even make that seem like a big deal at all. You were just happy to be there.
And the cold couldn't, it couldn't cool down the heat and the warm feeling I had in my heart. It didn't matter. Like there was nothing, the cold wasn't, to me, the cold didn't feel as bad as it did to be in Miami and in those situations I was in. Nothing I felt like was worse than where I was already at in life. So I felt like it doesn't matter what you throw at me, it's never going to be worse than what I came from. So I only saw going forward. Like when you're at the bottom, you can only go up,
Absolutely. Yes. Kind of a side question. Did you ever run into any like moose or bear or anything like that?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yes. So I never saw a bear, which was crazy because I lived there like 8 years. It was one of my biggest goals to see a bear, but I never saw a bear. Moose. I have a funny story. I walk out one day of the apartment I'm living in, and I see a moose, and he's like 10 feet away. Well, a lot of people don't know. More people get killed by a moose than people get killed by a shark.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. So I see the moose, and I'm like, here, little moosey, moosey, moose. Here, little moosey, moose. So I want to touch the moose, and Jonathan comes out. He's like, Mario, stop. What are you doing? And I'm like, I want to touch this moose. I raise horses. Like, I was in Gainesville. I touch horses. Like, It looks like a big horse. He's like, Mario, that is a baby moose. There is a mama around somewhere. Do not touch that. And I'm like, I bet you I'm going to be the first human being to touch a moose. And as I'm walking closer, what happens? The mama moose is right around the corner. So I see the mom just kind of like put its ears down and look at me, and then I'm like, maybe I won't touch this moose. So I
Yeah.
back up a little bit, and yeah, every day I saw moose, every single day.
Wow.
Um, I even saw a wolf one time in a neighborhood where it was like not too wild. It was pretty city like, and I did not know that wolves were as big as a donkey. I thought like that's a giant dog right
Holy
there.
crap.
So yeah, that was pretty crazy.
That's cool. All right, so you lived there for 8 years, you mentioned. How did you get to Wisconsin? Did you move from Alaska to Wisconsin?
Yes. So between time you meet people, and I end up going to Wisconsin, at with the relationship that I was in and stuff like that. And it just made sense to live in Wisconsin. It was the middle ground, it was the place at the time to go to, and I just took a gamble and moved down here to Wisconsin.
Okay. Okay, so you got to Wisconsin. When did you pick? So the work ethic absolutely got developed. And then I want to know, oh, actually, let's talk about this. So you worked a lot of different jobs and then you got to Wisconsin. What happened with a family loss in Wisconsin?
Yes. So not only a family loss, but a lot of friends. So while in Alaska, it was great. When I get to Wisconsin, I'm keeping the momentum up. But people are dying. People just, time is happening. Friends are, just to put it into perspective, one of my friends hanging out in that same neighborhood that I lived in is hanging out in his truck. Somebody comes behind him and just blasts his head open. This is not a easy thing to think about for many people, but I'm used to a lot of these crazy situations happening. So like I just start realizing like, wow, like things are happening and here I am living this happy life. But it was almost like a little bit of like just something pulling me like, hey, like why don't you get back in that mentality? Like why don't you do something for those people? Why don't you get into that environment again? It, like I said in the beginning, the devil doesn't want the people that he already has. He wants the people he can't have. So with all this positive and all this momentum happening and these good things happening, there's going to be some type of adversity and there's going to be some type of challenges. My
Yeah.
uncle ends up having cancer. He ends up dying. My grandma had stage 4 cancer for 4 or 5 years. She ends up dying. Mind you, my grandma's a pillar to me. She's been there like every day,
Hmm.
and I talk to her every day. So it was really really tough. And when my grandma passed away, I almost felt like a big part of my happiness just left, like just poop poop removed it.
Mm.
And it put me in a very like angry, but at the same time of angry, it put me in a very just like I didn't understand why these things were happening. I didn't understand that what better place to be than with God. I was selfish. I wanted my grandma for me. I wanted my friends for me. And I didn't accept the fact that death will happen in life. And
Mm.
it's not something you can control. When it's their time, it's their time. It's just how you deal with it. So that really helped me. It really put me in a spot that I recognized, but I did not want to accept that. I didn't want to go back to that because it was so easy to just say, like, screw everybody. I don't want to talk to people. I cut off a lot of people. I didn't want to talk. People would call me. I wouldn't pick up.
Mm.
Family would text me and reach out to me, and I was like, just leave me alone. Like, I don't care for nobody, and yeah, I hope that
No, I
answers
hear
that
you.
question.
Absolutely. So you recognize that familiar dark place, but you still chose not to return to it, which definitely took a lot of strength. So take me to, when did you get to Ironworks?
Yes, so believe it or not, like living in Miami with all the controversy, like I'll go back to middle school. You're very popular. You're the new kid.
Hmm.
Some people are gonna like you, but some people are not gonna like you. And in a sense, like I always got into fights with people that were bigger than me, stronger than me, and I didn't want to fight. I didn't. scared to fight. Like it wasn't my no. I'm a happy guy. Like let's laugh, make a joke, and have a good time. But I got in a lot of fights. Not only that, but I hung around a lot of gang members. And when I mean a lot, I mean like every single gang that was in Miami, I hung around. So one friend of mine is in this gang, but another friend of mine is in this gang. And of course, they're gonna ask me, why are you hanging around these people? Why are you not in our gang? Why are you not, being a part of this? And I always told people like, hey, I'm loyal to you. Like I'm your friend, and I'll be there with you. And if we're walking and somebody tries to fight you, and it's a group of 10 people, like I'm gonna jump in. I'm not just gonna let you just get hurt or anything like that. But at the same time, I like every color. I don't want to have to represent red, blue, or yellow, or green, or whatever the color was. And that caused a lot of controversy with many people. Maybe my friend was okay with it, but maybe his friends weren't okay with it. So, with all these fights that would happen, I would always surprise myself in the fights. I would win, and I'm like, oh, like, God knows I was scared for my life right there. And like a lot of scary moments where like I felt like, I've been shot at, I've been almost stabbed,
Wow.
I've been chased with a machete, with baseball bats, I've been jumped, 4 to 14. Like a lot of these things happen because I didn't understand that just being loyal doesn't mean you have to be loyal to everybody. And so fast forward to your question, I've always had like a curiosity, like what would happen if I get myself in a cage with somebody that actually knows how to fight and actually does this? And a key point of fighting too was my older cousin Jerry. He was in the same situation. He was in a gang. He was fighting every day. And then one day he started training, and I saw how he went from a street fighter to like a really good fighter. And I'm like, hey, how did you learn this? Did you put like a chip in your body that just like downloaded all these moves? And he's like, no, I started training. So that really kicked off the curiosity of wanting to just learn a martial art. But I think it was also the discipline of it. And in Gainesville, I actually did Aikido for a while, which was a martial art as well. It was my first one. And it was cool to be a part of something and to know how to do something without hurting somebody. So Ironworks Training Center. I started getting on Google, and I'm looking like boxing gym, this gym, that gym, and Ironworks keeps popping up. And one day I say, man, I'm gonna drive out there and I just want to see what they do. Like I don't know. And I remember going to the door, and the door was locked, and it's snowing, and I'm looking through the window, and there's instructor coaching a class, and I stood for like 45 minutes just like observing this instructor, and I was like, I want that right there. So I just wanted to do it for like a workout. I just wanted to learn how to defend myself better because I had a little bit of a fear inside of me. Like, it's not that I want to hurt anybody or fight anybody. It's just I want to learn how to defend myself. I felt like every fight I got into, I got super lucky that it went well. And I remember when some dark times happened, like my grandmother passing away. That was definitely the green light for me to get into Ironworks because I was so full of anger inside. I would call her every day, and I would say, Grandma, I don't care what life hands you, you keep fighting. And I kept telling her that you keep fighting, you keep fighting, you keep fighting. So the moment she passed away, I was like, I gotta keep fighting. And I gotta fight for something. If it's not for me, it's for others around me. And I remember walking into Ironworks and saying, hey, like, my name's Mario. I don't know even how to like start a conversation with you guys, but I want to learn how to fight. And my coach, Nick Johnson, he says, well, what experience do you have? And I look at him real proudly, and I'm like, I'm undefeated in the streets. And he laughs at me. And one of the fighters, Tyler, he says, doesn't count, and walks away. And I'm like, whoa, like it humbled me a little bit. And then at first it was just like I wanted to learn. But when my grandma passed away, I remember just walking in. This is like a week after I signed up, and looking at the promoter and Nick, and I say, I don't care who you put in front of me, I need to fight. I don't care what weight class, what it is, like I need to get this out. And they're like, what's wrong with this guy, right? And and that just started. So I started in December, and April there was an event, and my coach was like, "You're gonna fight in April," and I'm like thinking to myself like, shouldn't like I train for like a longer time before I just 4 months later get into a fight,
Mm-hmm.
on a stage with people? He's like, "Ah, don't worry about it," and I'm like, okay. So I fully committed. Every day I worked out. Every day I trained. And no matter how tired I was, I kept telling myself, you can't, like, it can't be any worse than where you've been at. It can't be any worse than where you've been at. This is temporary. Pain is just momentarily. But, like, motivation is temporary, but discipline is eternal.
Yeah.
Like, you have to continue. And excuse me, fighting wasn't about just the violence to me. Fighting was about all these years of built up frustrations, built up anger, built up sadness, built up wanting to do good, wanting to be somebody. And I'll never forget my first fight, man. My coach says, he looks at me and he's like, "Mario, go out there and, don't blow your tank. Just go out there and have fun and do this." And, he gives me all these lectures of like what to do. And, you know, I'm like, okay. But when I go out there, my mentality just shifted. Like I was just thinking to myself, like, I'm not here for the lights. I'm not here for the claps. I'm not here for the acknowledgement. I'm not here to become a champion. I'm here to become a life champion. I'm here to face my fears because even though I fought a couple times and I won in the streets, I still had fear of fighting. I was still scared, and I'm working at Pepsi, so like I'm working like a lot. Like it almost seemed impossible, and the more impossible it seemed, the more I wanted to do it. And that's really what helped me get through that fight. I remember walking in the cage, and nothing sunk in until the moment that the referee looked at me. He was like, "Blue corner, are you ready? Red corner, are you ready?" And at that point, I was like, "Can't run outside now. It's like flight or flight. Like, what are you gonna do? And yeah, man, it was an amazing fight. I finished it in 7 seconds. I surprised myself, and I remember just that feeling of like, look what happens when you put your mind to something. Look what happens when you really believe in yourself and you really commit to something. And I remember just so many people being happy for me that I didn't even know, and I'm like, what is this? Kids coming up to me and saying, "Hey Mario, can I get a picture with you?" And I'm like, "Sure, like this is cool." And yeah, man, I that was amazing, man.
Wait, so you knocked the guy out in 7 seconds?
Yes. So I end up getting the fastest knockout of the night. I end up getting a nice gold medal. I'm not used to winning gold medals. You know what I mean? Like, so I
Yeah.
end up getting a nice little gold medal saying like knockout of the night, and I end up seeing like, oh wow, like this might be a thing that I can actually like pursue in a sense. So like I continued, after that night, I keep training. I'm really excited. I remember I was so excited that I'm training with my coach and he just punches me one good time. He's like, "Don't get too excited, stay humble." And I'm like, okay, yes sir.
Yep.
And it's like I said, like to me, fighting wasn't about just fighting and violence. It was more about facing your fears and fighting your inner demons and your inner challenges and your inner self that sometimes just wants to take the back seat and just like relax a little more. So it's really just about challenging myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that was awesome. And then in June, my other Muay Thai coach, he's like, "Hey, there's this big event in Iowa that they do every year, and it's a tournament." So I immediately, when he says tournament, I'm like, Dragon Ball Z, tournament. So he's like, it's over 900 fighters, and as he's explaining it to me, I'm like, oh wait. Like I know I did good in my first fight, but this might be way out of my league. And the same thing that my other coach told me. He said, "No, you're gonna train hard, you're gonna believe in yourself, and you're gonna show up. It doesn't matter if you win or lose, you're gonna push yourself."
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciated that because when I showed up to this place, I mean, imagine Karate Kid walking into a place, a whole bunch of people, nobody, but with the one thing that you all have in common is that you all train this martial art, this sport. And oh man, it was an amazing experience, man, to see so many people violent sport shows so much love to each other and respect for each other. I mean, you would walk by people and they didn't know you, and they would just bow their head to you and say like, "Hey, man, best of luck today." And it's like,
Wow.
you don't even know me, you know?
Yeah.
So that love was well so much appreciated, and it was just cool, man. And I ended up winning my first fight, which I was super surprised. I was like, I didn't even think I'd make it out the first round. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I won my first fight, and then the next day I fought again, and that fight I lost, but I learned from it. It wasn't a loss as like, oh, you got beat up. It was more like, before I walked in that ring, I already mentally decided that I lost. And you might say, like, why would you decide that? Because when doubt hits you, sometimes you got to know how to ignore that distraction. But I still wasn't there. Like, I still had those, inner challenges with myself. So the moment that doubt kicked in, I fed right into it, I do that tournament. We have a great time, great team out there. We really enjoy it. And after that, that's in June. My coach from MMA is like, "Hey, come September, there's another fight at the Omni Center," and I'm like, I'm coming from a loss now, so now it's a whole different like entrance to all of this.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, oh man, I don't know, maybe. I'm working 70 hours. I'm like a week, so I'm like, I'm working too hard. I got too much stuff going on, so I go to my coach, like 2 months later, and I'm like, "Hey, I don't want to fight." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "I just got too much going on in life." Like, it was almost a complete opposite of my first fight. My first fight, I was like fully into it, fully dedicated, fully believing in myself. Come to my second MMA fight, and I'm like fully doubting myself, fully not believing in myself, fully just giving myself every excuse possible. But by this time, I've built a really good relationship with my coach. And I remember these words out of my coach, and him saying, "Mario, if there's one thing I've learned about you, man, is that you're a fighter. And I don't mean a fighter in this ring, I mean a fighter in life. So you're going to show up and you're going to fight." And I'm like, all right, I don't know. So, training camp, it was 10 weeks. Well, I showed up to 6 classes in those 10 weeks. So I almost already knew, like, I'm not going to win this fight. I'm going in there and I'm setting myself up for failure. I didn't commit myself. I didn't dedicate myself. The other guy deserves it more than I do. The other guy obviously put in more work than I do. And I remember, so like my first fight, my victory, I felt like it was mine. Like, I did this. I trained for it. But I was wrong. God put me in that position, and God got me out of that position. So in my second fight, I had to work out my spiritual battles. I had to work out my spiritual side of stuff. And I had to really understand that it doesn't matter if you train 1,000 times or if you train one time. If God wants you to win, you'll win. And if God wants you to lose, you'll lose. So I remember that those last couple of days telling myself, like, you know what, God? You're right. It's all in your favor, man, and it's all in your hands. I have no control of this. And even if I train for 1,000 weeks or whatever, it doesn't matter because it's all what you want it to be. So I remember just the mentality was way more faith based that time. I walked in there, and before the fight, I walked up to my opponent and I said, "Hey, man, I just want to say the best of luck. We'll be fighting today, but at the end of the day, I hope you make it home the same way you came. I hope I make it home the same way I came, and may the best man win." I shook his hand, I gave him a lot of respect, and I walked away. Most people in fights, they don't want to talk to their opponent. They want to kill this guy. They want to hurt each other. So I remember getting into the fight, and it was the complete opposite of my first one. Instead of it finishing in 7 seconds, it went the whole 3 rounds. And, when I walked in the ring, I remember saying, like, "God, it's all in your hands. May you guide my hands, may you guide my legs, and may you be here with me. If you want me to win, which I do want to win, let me come out of this as a victorious. But if you want me to lose, I understand the reason why, and it's because I did not put the full commitment into this." So I didn't disagree with whatever was going to happen, and I didn't expect anything. I just told myself, don't give up. Whatever you do, you don't give up. And, Coach Nick's words, just spoke volume in my head, like, "You're a fighter, Mario, you're a fighter." So I remember round one starts, and the first thing I thought of was, oh, well, fight. I just threw everything I had at once. This one, I'm gonna take a step back. So I did that. I took a step back, and it stretched out the full 3 rounds. I got hurt. I got hit a lot. I got beat up, and I needed that, man. I didn't need it because I wanted to get hurt. I needed it because I needed that humble feeling again inside of me. I needed to remind myself that you could do great things in life, but don't forget the reason why these great things are happening. Sometimes when we start doing things in life, we believe that we're the ones that made all that happen. I'm sorry to tell you, but it's not how it goes. God already wrote our story and already created our path. So at the end of the day, that's what's going to happen. And you have to remember who more than anybody is in your corner. And God was in my corner that night, and I ended up winning. It was fight of the night. It was a great fight with the other guy. It's a beautiful feeling that, like, once you get out of a fight, it's almost like you become best friends with the guy you fought. And that's a great feeling. Like, some people, maybe they got too much pride and ego, but for me personally, like, I feel like I built a connection with that person. We just put our life at risk. We just did everything we could do, and we gave it all we had. And it was a really close fight. I do give the other guy a lot of respect because it was not an easy fight. And I remember every time I would block, I would say, I'm gonna block 2 or 3 punches and I'm gonna hit him. And the guy would hit me with like 8 or 10 punches. Like, oh, like, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing of it all was just don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. Every time I sat down, so every match, you get to sit down for a second, and you get in your corner. Your corners are talking to you. When my corners would talk to me, I couldn't hear them. All I could hear was this voice in my head saying, "You're not good enough. You didn't train hard enough. This guy trained harder than you. This guy wants it more than you. How dare you think you can make it?" And every time that would happen, I would just stand up and like shake it off. Like, I got to get this out of my head. I just got to move forward again. So it was really spiritual. It was a spiritual battle there. It wasn't a physical one to me.
That's amazing that you were able to lean on him and carry you through to the win. Yeah. Holy crap, man. How many fights have you done total?
So in total, in MMA, I've done 2 fights. In Muay Thai, I've done 2 fights. And I even did a jiu-jitsu bout, which was 2 different matches as well. And I won one and I lost one there as well.
So there's no, you're a life fighter, as you said, but you've also now transitioned into a mentor now. Tell me about that transition and what are you more focused on today?
So I've realized, like, I think one of humans' biggest goals are finding your purpose and finding your reason. Why did God take his time on you? Why did he take his precious time on you? Like, why are you here? The same Lord that created the stars, that created the mountains, the oceans, everything that we now see as life, the same Lord took his time on you. And that really sinks in with me, like, every single day. And I ask myself, like, why am I here? Am I here to just work at a grocery store? Am I here to just fight in a ring? Or am I here for a deeper purpose? And, I truly believe that what you go through in life is just it's just a movie or something you can show others. And sometimes what you're doing is not for yourself. My grandma used to always say, you never know who you're buying something for. But she would say that about everything. You never know who you are speaking for. Sometimes you think you're talking to somebody and you're not realizing that you're really giving yourself answers that you needed. So as I saw more people gravitating towards me, as I, like in middle school and stuff like that, as I saw people wanting to be closer to me, I started understanding that I'm not meant to fit in, man. I'm meant to stand out. And that doesn't mean that standing out, I got to give myself this big, don't confuse that with ego. Stay humble, but understand that we all have a job to do and we all have to help each other. And what better way than to explain to people and show people that no matter what you're going through in life, no matter where you've been, no matter how dark you may think that your journey has been, there's a way. And if you trust God, like, it just happens. I can't explain to you exactly how it happens. I just know when things seem impossible, that's when he shows himself the most. And I've just taken that I've taken that with pride. I have this question that I ask myself a lot. And I always ask myself, if I was to die right now, and God forbid, and I was to walk in heaven with the Lord, imagine the Lord saying, these are all the things that I wanted to give you, and these are all the things that you chose. You sometimes want a pool, but the Lord wants you to have an ocean. You sometimes want a car, but the Lord wants you to have a whole company of it. Don't put a cap and don't put a limit on what the Lord can do to you. Don't say, I want to do this, when the Lord wants you to do so much more. And being able to keep that mentality like open, just keeping your heart open is really what it comes down to. Understanding that everything has an answer, but you're not going to know the answer to everything. And all I want to do in my life is just show people that first, God is real. And whether you believe it or you don't, one day we'll all be with it, and you're gonna see it for yourself. So that's like my main goal. My second goal is just to show people that by your story, we all have different stories. So let's embrace that and let's help somebody in the process. Because why not? If you can make a difference, if you want to see a difference, why don't you become that difference? Why don't you show people that it may be hard, crazy, tough, whatever you call it, but it's not impossible. There's so many reasons to doubt. There's so many reasons to accept and just be comfortable, that right there fuels me to do the complete opposite. Why would I sit there and think that this is as good as I am when there's so much more that I can do? I don't know the future. Why would I limit myself? Why would I put a cap on what I could get to and where I can be at, you know?
Yeah.
And I just take that with a lot of pride, man. I just want to help the next generation. I was lost in life. I was, scared. I was afraid. I was clueless. I was, in my own sense, I was just in a dark place that I got out of, and I want to show people that you can do it too. Just trust the Lord, man. That's literally what he says. He just says, trust me. And sometimes we tend to complicate the most simple things in life,
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh man, so much to say. You, like you've alluded to many times throughout this, your gravitas, like your energy is extremely, people want to be around you. And I am going to mention this in the intro that people listen to before they watch all of this, but the way that Mario and I met was really cool. And like you said, everything happens for a reason. I don't think I ever saw you before that one day in the sauna. And I had always been interested in fighting, but I had never had the balls to actually ask somebody, who do I talk to? How do I get involved? And I don't know if you remember this, but I remember it like it was yesterday. It was like 2 days after I got out of a relationship, which I got back into, but it was the first breakup. And I was extremely dark season. I was asking, what do I do? Did I make the right decision? And I needed an outlet for all that anger and sadness that I was dealing with. And I remember you and I think it was Abe were in the sauna talking about fighting. And I usually keep to myself. I've become more open, but certain seasons of life I've been a lot quieter. But I remember you guys were talking and your vibe was just, I could ask this guy. I can trust him. And I was just like, hey, where do you guys train at? And you started telling me about it. He's like, dude, come to Ironworks. Here's my number. You gave me your phone number. And I thought about it for a couple days. I don't remember how long it took, maybe like a week max. But then we went in together and I got to meet Nick, your coach, and everybody there. And it was a real family for me before I moved to Florida. And I'm back now, so I don't know. I don't have any excuse not to be at Ironworks right now, other than I've been slacking. But that, you introducing that to me, I just want you to know, Mario, like that genuinely was one of the biggest pivots for me, because the confidence that you build to be able to defend yourself. And I'm not qualified like yourself to go into the ring and knock somebody out in 7 seconds. It's probably not going to happen for me.
You never know.
You never know. But dude, I am just so grateful that our paths crossed. And like you have said, dude, everything happens for a reason. God presents certain people to you when you're ready to see them. And I wasn't even in full alignment with my faith journey when I met you. It was just a super dark season. My vibrations were probably lower than ever, and I felt lost. And I felt like he definitely put you in my life for what I needed it to be. And I'm just so grateful that our paths are here and now you're on the show. And that's like you said, everybody has a story. The purpose of the Rain from Within show is for people that have the courage to come in here and share what you're about. Because I think you're the longest episode yet, bro.
Let's go.
Let's go. Yeah. So people needed to hear this. And yeah, dude, I'm just so grateful that you're here.
I appreciate you saying that, man. I really do, because it's like you said, God does everything for a reason and at the right time. Imagine if Jay would have never gave me the opportunity to go to Alaska, I would have never had the opportunity to come across you years later in Wisconsin. I didn't know that was going to happen, and you didn't know that was going to happen. Everything happens for a reason, and although we may not understand the reasons, you just have to trust. And when you trust and you put all of your faith in God, like, ask yourself, when's the last time that you put 100% of yourself into anything in life? Because it's a scary feeling. It's like closing your eyes and falling back and hoping somebody's there to catch you, right?
Yeah.
But that's the purpose, man. That's the whole thing about faith, because when you worry, that's the opposite of faith. When you think or doubt, that's the opposite of faith. Some people say, oh, I believe. You only believe in things that you think might happen. There's a difference with I know. I know God is real. I know He's there. And when you start really putting 100% into that, like I said, I can't tell you how it happens. I just know that's the beauty of it, man. So thank you for sharing that, because I really, really appreciate that, man.
Of course, bro. Yeah, conviction's everything. When you're fully into something, you can deliver 100%. And like you said 5 or 10 minutes ago, imagine getting to the end of life and God shows you, this is what you could have had, but I had to give you this because you didn't earn that. You didn't put in the work, and you didn't live life in alignment to receive what I wanted to give you. That definitely is going to hit home for a lot of viewers. So
yeah,
Mario,
real quick, I just want to say, just remember, you said conviction, and recently, I've been really getting myself more in tune with all this. And one thing that I've learned about conviction is you could have conviction, but you have to have action with it, because conviction without action is nothing. You could think of all the things you need to do. You could plan them, draw them, write them, put it out on a board, sticky notes. But if you don't take action on it, then you're cutting yourself short, So I just want to emphasize on that as well.
Wasted potential.
Yes, sir.
Let's go. Where can they connect with you, Mario? Do you have any socials that people can find you at, or?
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn, Mario Gonzalez. I'm building my profile slowly. You can find me on Instagram. It's Change is a Must, 80288. And you can ask Shane where I'm at, and you can always reach out, man. I have no problem giving people my number. I have no problem connecting. Whatever, leave it in the comments. I'll review the comments, and if I see somebody wants me to reach out, like, I'd be more than glad to, help out however I can. Who knows, you can help me out as well, and the people that are in these comments can help me out as well. So I cut no doors, and I close no doors, and I'm open to just being impactful in anybody in any way that I can.
I love it. Well, Mario, thanks for coming on. Thanks for leading by example and being a great mentor for me, a lot of the viewers. And guys, make sure, if you haven't already, make sure you like, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.
Yes. Thank you, guys. My last message for everybody: accept nothing less than what you deserve in life. And when you get to where you're going, don't stop there. Just continue going. So love you guys all. God bless you all. Shane, thank you for the opportunity of allowing me to be on your podcast. I think what you're doing is bigger than you could even imagine. And just keep on doing what you're doing, man, because step by step, brick by brick, you'll see where you'll be at, man.
Oh, God bless you, bro. Let's go.